Welcome back, guys. My name's Tyson. I'm your journalist and videographer with Construction Business TV in the East Idaho area. I'm joined tonight by a very special guest. It's Joshua Ruby with Creating Comfortable LLC. How are you today, Josh?
Doing well.
And
Glad to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to join with me, your time away from your family and your kids.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Excellent. So, I get into mindset right now. So the first thing that came to mind when looking at your business was the name, Creating Comfortable LLC. Definitely not your average construction business name. The construction businesses usually name their company out of after the town or the county that they work in, but you took a much more creative angle on yours. What was the thought process behind that?
My name mostly comes from, I love alliteration for one. And so I had to have CC in there somewhere probably. But the reason I chose Creating Comfortable was because that's what I intend to do, is to create comfortable situations. Sometimes it's comfortable houses. Sometimes it's comfortable business models. Sometimes it's comfortable solutions to current problems. And so under that banner, I can go different directions relatively easily.
Okay, so give me to help me understand that business philosophy a little bit better. Maybe give me some examples of ways that you've chosen to conduct your business or how you've chosen to serve customers in the past in a way that has created a comfortable situation for them.
Perfect. So one way, and my main way under Creating Comfortable's banner, is by creating high-end, high-efficiency custom homes. And so I specialize in insulated concrete forms, radiant floor heating systems, and very good air quality indoors, very good windows, thermal performance. And not only does that create a comfortable place to inhabit, to be, but because it's lower energy cost, they're safer and things like that, it creates a sense of comfort on top of the actual just residing in a comfortable habitat. And so that's one reason why. So that's actually the main area where Creating Comfortable comes from, because the difference, and this is where I kind of draw the line different. A lot of people say the word quality, and quality doesn't mean anything to me. To me, it's a buzzword, but it has no actual value to a customer. Whereas comfortable to me is a much more valuable word. It should be comfortable on their budget. It should be comfortable in their residing in it. They should feel good about it as a purchase, as well as the actual feelings it evokes physically when you are in it. And so that's what I aim for. So I don't just create quality houses, whatever that means. I create comfortable houses, which happen to be quality as a byproduct. But my goal is to leave the end consumer comfortable with their entire process.
Very cool. I love how you interpret the word quality as it's kind of almost a very used, almost has kind of lost its meaning adjective in today's world. I'm thinking about the other one that I think about a lot that has no meaning to me personally is the phrase world class.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see that very often?
I haven't heard world class much, but it definitely does evoke something senseless typically. So like I've had friends who are world-class athletes, and that's because he's a 3-time wrestling grappling world champion. So to me, that's world class. Most of the time people don't compete on that stage. So yeah, it's usually meaningless.
I guess in the context of businesses, like maybe even in your industry or in other service industries, that they describe themselves as a world-class service, or we offer a world-class service to our customers. And I often just want to ask them, like, what does that mean to you?
What does that mean? I think to me, just the term world class, my guess would come from the airline industry, which means basically you're a regional class jet system like Southwest, or you're a national class airline system like you cover the United States, or you're a world-class airline. So it would literally be classification of size and who you service. So to me, to be a world-class business, it means you're doing business in Russia, Sweden, Australia, US, Brazil, all over. You have operations all over. So
Literally
that's what
world
to me
class.
would be world-class. If someone were to put world class on their thing, that's what I would think they meant. I mean, they have world access, like we are all over.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I don't know if that's where it comes from. That's just what I would think.
Right. We can run off on that tangent all night if we want to, but to kind of re-rail the interview, like I said, I took a look at your LinkedIn profile, kind of buzzed through that a little bit. The one thing that really stuck out to me was that you label your profession as a poverty alleviation engineer. Can't say I've heard that anywhere else.
It doesn't really exist anywhere else, as far as I know.
I assume that was something that you came up with on your own, and
yes, I had to brand
I would love
myself
to hear the story behind that.
Yeah, so I've been building custom homes since I was 15, and when I was building homes, it was nice. And custom homes are an interesting place because I've never done tract home development really. My first custom home I built while I was in high school was in a tract home off of tract home plans, but it was an ICF house, not a regular stick-built house. But that's really the only dabble I've had in tract homes at all. Everything I've done is custom. And the nice part about the world of custom homes is you are satisfying a client to more of a what they want appeal. And oftentimes these things are somewhat more what I would refer to as superfluous or lavish, or oftentimes what I would perceive from my standpoint as a not person who having money, as a waste of money. And so I went off to college to get a mechanical engineering degree as a backup plan in case my other business plans fell through. And so while up at school, I realized I had less and less interest in appeasing the interests of wealthy people. I said to myself, that's not really, it's not, I mean, to me, it's wasteful. And as a engineer in general and training, I kept looking, and I've just been this way in general, that I hate inefficiency. I hate waste. I hate, it bothers me intrinsically. I don't know why it does, but it bothers me. And so I love to optimize systems to perform at a better state.
Better efficiency.
Being. Exactly, better efficiency. And so, I kept coming back to what I'd really like to do is help people who want to get themselves out of poverty but have no way to do that because they're in what I refer to as low resource or zero resource communities. And they have the tenacity, they have the personalities even, and the work ethics. They don't have resources, and they don't have educations to get them past where they're at. And so right around the time I was finishing school, I had found a group through BYU called Product Design for the Developing World. And it literally is the mechanical engineering master's degree emphasizing product design for developing people. And I said, that's really what I want to do. I hadn't really been able to nail down what I had wanted to do until I had heard of that program.
Product design for developing people.
Correct. So it's specifically what the general idea is. You find a place in the world where there are people in third world areas or just lower standards of living, and you work with them. That's the key term, is with them, to help them design products for them. And then you help them realize that and bring it to fruition for them and with them. And there's a whole bunch of research going on behind that of how that works. Well, anyways, I hadn't really geared my college experience toward going to master's degree. And so when I had applied, and it was the only school I applied to because I was the only program that had any interest to me. I didn't get accepted, unfortunately, but maybe I'll try back later. But so I said, fine, if they won't do, I'll do it myself. And so so now I'm designing business models and systems that can position me in a way that I can spend my full time doing that and going about and doing poverty alleviation engineering full time. So everything I'm doing right now is a means to an end to achieve my other goals. Particularly, the first avenue I'm progressing toward this poverty alleviation is actually domestically. So unless most people would agree, we are in a bit of a housing debacle going on now. Crisis is a buzzword. I don't know if I appreciate the term, but there's something amiss with housing, with the costs and proportions of incomes, and it's a little bit wild and crazy. And I don't foresee that getting any better anytime soon. Call me a pessimist, if you will. I don't know, but realist possibly. But I think it's going to just exacerbate the current situation. And so what I've been working on the last few years actually is designing a low-cost housing system based off of my custom housing systems. And so I'm taking what I used to do for $750,000 houses, which I didn't do super high end. My houses were mostly in $500,000 to $800,000 range. I'm trying to take those technologies and those systems, which produce a quality house, and bring it down to a much lower level of cost. And so that's my current project right now. So it's a low cost development I'm actually working on developing in Idaho Falls right now. And so that'll be 12 homes, all of which are about $180,000 to $200,000. But they have the same quality as my custom homes. They're net zero energy and all in-floor heat, all ICF, and really nice. So, but it just does it through a different business model than standard. And so that way it allows a higher quality product with less costs. Less monetary costs. There are other exchanges needing to be done, but
okay. As I'm listening, I don't know if this is something that you want to dig too much into, but I'm wondering, like, you're saying that you're able to provide basically equal quality homes for a fraction of the cost.
Correct. But not equal quality, superior quality.
Superior quality. Okay.
For less cost.
For less cost.
Correct. And the main business model that stands behind that is actually leveraging what people have versus trying to give them what they simply don't have. So what people do have in the state of mind who are looking for a home for $200,000 or less, these people are typically people who have they have more willingness to do blue collar work and get their hands involved in their own process of their own home construction. They're willing to sacrifice sweat equity, if you want to call it that. They're willing to put in sweat equity in exchange for knocking 50 grand off their house or more.
Okay.
And so that's basically the model I go with. So, so homeowners hire me, and then I am their instructor, and they build the house themselves for the parts that are what I would refer to as tedious and takes labor and takes somebody to do it, but doesn't necessarily take an artistic's hand to do it. So like flat work concrete, we hire that out. Drywall texturing, typically hire that out. Those are skills that are learned.
Things that are more specialty level.
Exactly. But generally speaking, most people can learn to put on a roof, to put on different parts of their house and things like that. And so basically I coach them through the whole process. And when we do that as a team, the cost per household goes down dramatically, because then I can coach multiple houses at the same time. And so they can split my coaching fee that I just have to stay in business across several of them. And so the percent cost of the house, which is right now, I mean, 40 to 60% of the cost of a house is labor. It can drop that down significantly to 10 or 20% of the house cost being labor. So,
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me now. I like that.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. So everything comes out of cost, but some's cost with money and some cost with their time.
Their time and their blood and sweat.
Blood, sweat, and sometimes tears. Sometimes more than they prefer.
Yeah. You said that you sometimes end up, and I like that term, like almost a construction coach, like a coach.
That's exactly what I am. Yeah.
You said that you sometimes do coach multiple house development projects at the same time.
Correct.
What would you say is the most you've done, or what you're doing now?
So right now I'm coaching. I'm working with probably 4 or 5. I don't know. I have several in development, but right now, actively building, there are 2, and I did one 3 years ago back when I was in school. But now there's actively 2 homes that I'm coaching on. Well, I guess 3, because he's technically done his shop portion already. So 3 that I'm currently working on, and then another 4 that I'm currently planning on in the next couple months. But those ones are all spread out and they're not actually working together. My ideal situation is what I'm planning for, which I'm actually meeting with the city of Idaho Falls tomorrow to talk about my plat development. Is that neighborhood is 12 houses on the same area. And so it's all 12 homeowners coming together to build the whole neighborhood together. So I'll actually be one coach amongst a group of people that we're working with, and as a group, as a neighborhood, they'll build their neighborhood. So
when is that going to be?
If I knew that, I would know more than I know.
That was a question out of excitement. Like, I would love to see that.
I know. I would love to say it would get started this summer. I have some investors in mind who would be able to get it, the main infrastructure put down, and I think we could get homeowners in the homes. I initially had started marketing back in March, and then things went all phooey, and so I put marketing on the back burner until I could talk to people in person again. And so it's been delayed again. So hopefully this year we'll be able to get a group together and get something done. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I imagine a project like that, there's plenty of hoops to jump.
Several. Luckily, the cities around here recognize that people are desperately looking for housing, particularly lower cost housing, and they're allowing and encouraging innovative ways of achieving that. And so they're open to planned unit developments. They're open to not variances per se, but different zoning applications to allow different types of neighborhoods into the system. And my neighborhoods are typically the neighborhoods I've designed for this basic reason of being comfortable are not standard suburban neighborhoods. And so they are developed off of what is referred to as a cottage community or a pocket neighborhood or a co-housing community, all somewhat similar, but similar the same neighborhood that is designed physically to promote differences socially. And so rather than having, I think the biggest difference really is that in a standard suburban neighborhood, you have a street running through the neighborhood and then driveways off of the street. Whereas in a pocket neighborhood and a co-housing neighborhood, you say the cars are not the most important people who live in this neighborhood, the people are. And so we separate the cars and we put them on one side, and then they walk and you walk to your houses. And that way you pass by your neighbors and you see your neighbors, and there's no road between you and your neighbors, and your kids can run out from house to house without any worry about cars in the way. And so it, unfortunately, due to a lot of the zoning rules of suburbia that were created in the 50s and 60s, that structure isn't technically allowed. Oftentimes they say your front door has to face the street, or you have to have this such of setback from your house to your road, and all sorts of things. So you have to get approval of a planned unit development to basically build this sort of neighborhood system. And so that's the hardest part. But luckily, Idaho Falls, Blackfoot, and Sugar City have all been, they've all adopted code which allows these sorts of developments.
So they've worked with you. They share your passion on this vision.
Correct. Yeah. And when I was initially setting up a development in Sugar City, was where I was first planning on doing it, because the developers for that area had already pursued that zoning and gotten it achieved in Sugar City. I was initially going to build in there. And so when I was I did a newspaper article with East Idaho News, and they, then after that went out, both the city of Blackfoot and the city of Idaho Falls reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's a really cool idea what you're trying to do. Could you do one in our city as well?" And I said, "Well, possibly." And so I've been reading through their codes, and they're both well designed as to their codes are lax enough that it lets these in without much fuss. So that's, yeah.
Very cool. Backing up a little bit to what we were talking about before, where you bring the aspiring homeowners, I'll call them, you bring them on and give them a hammer and teach them how to use it. The thought that's coming to my mind, and it may come to the minds of some of our viewers, is: are there any liability legalities around that? Or is it
Probably.
just like you're coming to work, you're assuming any risks?
It's a little bit like that. So most likely both. So currently when I help homeowners right now, so all the people who I've helped so far, they are owner, builder, contractors. So they are the general contractors, and they hire me as their consultant, and I coach them through it. And so their insurance is covered by either builder's risk insurance or course of construction insurance, or their own personal homeowner's insurance because they already own the land or something, some form of insurance on their own side. And so, and generally speaking, that is how we would probably build the neighborhood as well, is to everyone be their own owner, builder, contractor, and maintain their own insurance for themselves, similar to the insurance for a sole proprietor, where they just maintain themselves without being required to have workman's comp insurance. So, but that is actually a major point that I need to look into, is the structure of how that functions.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. I keep, excuse me, thinking back on this vision that you have of what you hope to hopefully hear within the next year or so, where you're having a whole community of people kind of helping to build a neighborhood rather than building their own houses, just like collectively building a neighborhood. I imagine, and I'm sure that you've probably have thought this out as well too, that a project like that has to have an incredible byproduct of creating an immense sense of community and interfamily friendships in that community and in that neighborhood.
Yeah. And to me, that's one of the driving forces I've leaned toward that model. Because for good or for ill, I'm just going to put things as I see it, whether they're true or not. But as I see it, oftentimes when people say low-cost housing or affordable housing, this light bulb comes on their head that says that's going to be a ghetto. These are going to be poor people houses.
Okay? That was one of my...
And these are people who don't have a good work ethic, or these are people who are poor and it's their own fault that they're poor. For whatever reason, these are what come to mind for people who aren't poor. And they may be right and they may be wrong. I don't know. I make no judgment. My goal is to just achieve low-cost housing, however that's done. And so one way to help weed that factor out, though, if it were a real thing, is requiring sweat equity. Because then we know, hey, you're not poor necessarily because you're lazy, that your circumstances beyond your control. But by proving that, like, you just worked 40 hours a week for 6 months straight, like, on top of your regular job to build your house. That shows that you're ready, you're committed to a long-standing project.
It builds commitment. Yes.
And it shows commitment. And so it's important to show. A lot of people don't consider this until they try to rezone plot of land, but your neighbors matter. Your neighbors care about what happens in their outside of their lot, whether that's for right or for wrong, they care. And so you have to try to appease them some way. If you tell someone you're going to build an affordable neighborhood, you get red flagged all to heaven, because people are like, don't put a ghetto in my backyard. Whether that's true or not, that's their mentality.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, sweeping generalizations over here. But and so that's a major concern you have to offset when you have to say, this is a neighborhood built for the neighborhood by the neighborhood, not for poor people by wealthy people hoping to bring poor people up. Simply for the fact is, the idea, for true or not, is if you just simply hand people things, they won't appreciate them, they'll let them degrade, and it will just fall back into disarray. Whereas if you coach people, give them skills, show them how to work together, build together, they're going to build an interstructural community. Then they will build habits and work ethic, whether they had them or not before. They can build them or strengthen them, and then develop themselves out of poverty. And that's really the goal I achieve. The goal I'm hoping for is for this to be a stepping stone for these people, whoever they may be, to increase. So whether I help people who are already millionaires or people who have no money to their name, my goal for them is to leave the situation in a better situation. And so this model does that because it gives them a sense of friendship, it gives them a sense of belonging, gives them skills, gives them work ethic, gives them the ability to see the fruits of their labor. And when they're done, they have significant amount of equity in their homes that if they were to then sell it, they would give them a huge stepping stone to their next level, and things like that. And so all sorts of things that run into it that work that way. And this isn't my idea. Like, I didn't invent that concept. This concept, the idea, so I was searching through systems that develop low-cost housing. And there's a program called the Mutual Self-Help System, and it's run by the USDA. And basically, it is this model. It is multiple families under the direction of a superintendent, and the homeowners build the homes themselves for as much as they can, and the superintendent is an expert in the trades who helps coach these families together. And then the families have certain requirements to meet. Each family dedicates 35 hours a week toward the construction of the homes, and they work on all the homes, not just their home. And they show up on a schedule that they've made. After everyone gives up their schedules, they correlate and figure out who does what and when they can do it. And then they're guided through, and 6 to 10 months later, typically is the time frame, they all move in. And so I didn't even make up the numbers. It's like their numbers, 35 hours a week. Their numbers are all the stuff. So really, I'm just transplanting it and taking it out of the USDA and turning it into a privatized system entirely. So
taking that idea and localizing it.
Exactly.
Because you recognized it. And you said that I think you found something at BYU. I want to say that is a program that is mainly geared toward maybe less developed countries. And you wanted to take that concept, that program, that you wanted to take that concept and localize it, combined with what you were just telling me, or maybe it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm. No, and generally speaking,
localize
it. Yeah, exactly. Bring it here domestically. And that's just simply because my expertise is in housing and building housing. Uh-huh. And so I said, if I'm going to help low-cost people, there's definitely a need here for it. And so I just try my hand at it to see if I can make it happen. Because if it could be done, it's one giant cookie that needs to be cracked. For crying out loud, it's getting out of control out there.
There's plenty of people out there who have said that before we like it's good to help the world, but before we help the world, we need to help ourselves. We need to help the people in our own backyard.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's exactly what you've taken on doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I have projects that I'm helping consult with on projects in India for clean water, and I hope to do a lot more foreign stuff as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is my main squeeze right now,
best
is
place to
trying to see if
start.
I can get this figured out.
So how long have you been doing this? How long have you been working on this business model?
The business model itself for the neighborhood, I've been working on for about 3 years to try to get things figured out, but it
It
doesn't
was
pay
it
me.
was a it was about 3 years ago you graduated college. Am I right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So I graduated 3 years ago nearly, and it was right around. I had heard about this neighborhood concept near the beginning of my senior year, and someone had asked me, because he found out that I invent things, I solve problems, and that I build houses. And he said, "Hey, could you build houses for $130,000?" And I said, "I don't know. I could look." And so I priced it all out, and I said, "Yes, I could, but there's one major caveat that I have to switch out, and that's the labor component. I have to alleviate the huge labor component,
Mhm.
as well as the huge overheads and markups that come from the layers of separation. And so if you can eliminate those layers, if you look at the National Association of Home Builders costs to build a house, back when I was looking at it, was a 2017 one. They essentially updated it to 2019, but it's about 60% of the cost of the house construction. 40% is in marketing, land costs. Land actually takes a big part, and to me, they should put the land in part of the cost of construction, but they separate it. So even if you add the land, it's like 20%. So there's 20% on top of the actual physical cost of construction. And then if you look at the physical cost of construction, about 50% of that is labor. And so by the time you look at, if you can strip off a lot of the realtor fees, or find a way to conveniently handle them, if you can get homeowners before realtors, and you can get one general contractor, or if they serve as their own general contractors with one superintendent, rather than general contractors who by necessity, I'm not degrading their business model, they have to stay in business. So by necessity, there's a 20 to 25% markup of cost between paying a salary and all the overhead of accounting that it takes to run a general contracting business. And so, but the only way for a homeowner to be alleviated from those is to do those things themselves. And so if you can go with a coach who can guide you through those steps of being your own general contractor, or have everything set up so that way you can alleviate it, and then further on you can keep alleviating prices by doing your own subcontracting under yourself. And so that way all of these labor components, they start adding up very quickly, if you start doing a lot of the work yourself.
Mhm.
And if you design a house properly, and that's a bad word, but if you design a house in a certain way, you can alleviate a lot of the difficult parts of a house. So like when things get finicky is when you have all sorts of weird convoluted roof systems, or when you have weird stuff. And then even regular people who do it full time are like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here. So if they can't do it, or they would have a struggle, no way a homeowner could do it. But if you could streamline it and design houses to fit within a streamlined approach, so if things work together in a harmony, and the whole house is designed in a harmony one with another, and you're not fighting yourself the whole time, it's very doable. And so that's what I've worked on specifically from the invention side of the point, is I literally changing the way something is built drastically compared to how normal people build. And it results in a higher quality product for less cost in the end, because of the systems I've designed. So
And the homeowners are going to appreciate it that much more. They're going to take care of it. They're going to have pride in it.
Exactly. And their neighbors will notice.
Mhm.
And so then when another neighborhood shows up, says, we're going to try this neighborhood, they can vouch for it and say, yeah, you're going to want one of these next to you. It's a quality neighborhood, and it's not going to be a rundown troublemaking cause. So
That was one of the questions, or one of the thoughts that I had earlier in the conversation, that you must have read my mind, because I'm sure a lot of people have, you mentioned a lot of people have brought that concern up, is how high quality are these neighborhoods built by laymen really going to be? And you answered that very, very well.
yeah. So these are the same types of homes I turn out for $750,000, but instead of being 6,000 square feet, they're closer to 1,400 or 1,200 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, generally speaking. And instead of having 28 corners, they have 4 corners. Instead of having like 16 roof ridge lines that serve no purpose, they have 1 ridge line. Like, so not only are they're simpler. So yeah, I mean,
Practical.
they're practical, and that's what people need to start looking toward, in my opinion. Is you can achieve cute, and that's a necessity too, because the trouble is, if you go too far leaning toward the optimization engineer side of things, you start getting barracks, and you start getting blockhouses, and you start getting things that will want to be torn down in 30 years. Whether the building is surviving or not, it's not the question. Aesthetics is a function of a building. And if the aesthetics are not charming, and if they're not cute, and they're not pleasant, the aesthetics will ask for the building to be torn down, not for the comfortability of inside the home. So you have to account for it being cute enough, but not so cute that it costs you extra money simply for cute factor. And so it's a difficult balance to make, but
Between
luckily
cute and practical.
Luckily, baby shoes and other small things are cute. So when you build small houses, you have that little nudge in there that, simply because it's a smaller house, it's cuter by nature, which is a weird concept. I don't understand why we associate small things with cute things, but whatever. That's how it works.
That's how it works. So, the question that's really jumping out at me right now, a good question that as we can wrap this up, really appreciate your time again, by the way, is if you wanted anybody in the community to see this interview, to learn more about you and what you do, why you do it, the passion behind it, who would you want to know about you? Who would you want to have this information, and what would you want them to do with it?
I'd say the biggest people who I would really like are people who are looking to build a home in Idaho Falls, because that's my current development hope, and are willing to put in a measure of sweat equity into the neighborhood. Those are the main people. So them and the realtors who find these people. The trouble I have right now is that I need to find realtors who understand the necessity of the type of housing and work a little bit with their commission system on making the neighborhood happen. Because for good or for ill, people think buying a house, they go to realtors. That's how it works. And so my marketing of bypassing the realtor is a very difficult thing to do. It's hard to market toward people trying to buy a house without going the realtor route. And realtors
to understand that they don't need one.
You don't need one if the house isn't built already. We'll use a realtor to help us negotiate the cost of the land, but after that, it's you own the house. You are the developer. You are the GC. You are everything.
The house did not exist before you, so there's
you're not passing along real estate. You're passing along fake estate. I mean, there's no house yet, so you don't need a realtor yet. And so the nice part about the homes in Idaho Falls is that they should be less than about $200,000, and for a 3-bed, 2-bathroom home it's hard to say, because with co-housing, you get more than you have alone. That's kind of like the idea of synergy. But basically, you have access to about half acre of land, but 2 acre. But what's it called? For $200,000, you get a 3-bed, 2-bathroom house on a half acre of land. Plus, this neighborhood I'm working on actually will have like a swimming pool, wood shop, and metal shop, pickleball court, a whole bunch of stuff that the community builds as well. So it's a whole lot more than that, and it's still for less than the $200,000 price point. And that's because the model to which it's created. So.
Excellent. Okay, so you kind of threw out your target audience that you hope this video will reach. If anybody who matches that description is viewing this now and wants to meet you, wants to continue a conversation with you, how would they do that?
The best way is to email me. My email is jlrubybusiness@gmail.com.
Excellent.
Yeah. You can also text me. My phone number is 719-761-5027.
So texting and email is the best way to get a hold of you.
Yep.
Very cool. Is there anything else that you want, any other like inspiring one-liners you want to leave us on?
If there are any people in general who want to build your own house, but not necessarily in that neighborhood or community, I also help consult on those as well. But specifically, I help with the foundation systems, in-floor heat systems, insulated concrete form systems, selecting windows, and designing the insulation envelope, and designing things for longevity and durability. So yeah. So if anyone's interested in insulated concrete forms, I'm one of the only people in the whole area who does those at all. So, in fact, I'm the only one I know of. So, the nearest one's Pocatello, but I don't know of anyone north of Pocatello who does them. So.